One of the newest players in the aviation industry has emerged with a bold mission to bring back the golden age of travel. Global Airlines promises an elevated onboard experience, blending luxury and nostalgia with modern service. But can they actually pull it off? Is this a fresh revival of classic air travel, or just another ambitious idea destined to crash and burn? Let's dive into Global Airlines, their vision, their challenges, and whether they have what it takes to become the next big name in the skies. Picture this: a 24-year-old travel influencer sets a world record by visiting every country on Earth. Then he builds $1 million travel startup, writes a best-selling book, and, just when you think he's done, announces he's launching his own airline to bring back the golden age of flying. This isn't some hypothetical startup fantasy. This is James Asquith, the real-life Marco Polo of millennials, and his high-stakes gamble called Global Airlines. But here's where things get wild. While every major airline is desperately phasing out the gas-guzzling, unpit Airbus A380 in favor of sleek, fuel-efficient jets like the Dreamliner and A350, James is doing the exact opposite. He's all in on the least profitable plane in modern aviation history. Let that sink in. At a time when 24% of all A380s ever built are sitting in airplane graveyards, and the remaining fleet burns 4,600 gallons of fuel every single hour, that's double what modern jets consume. This former backpacker turned CEO is staking his entire airline on the aviation equivalent of a cruise ship. Is this sheer madness? Or could a fresh-eyed outsider actually crack the code that's baffled airline executives for decades? One thing's for sure, if Global Airlines succeeds, it'll rewrite the rules of modern aviation. But if it fails? Well, let's just say those grounded A380s might be getting some new company. So, genius move or spectacular disaster in the making? Let's dive in. The A380 profitability puzzle: can the numbers ever add up? Let's cut through the hype and examine the cold, hard math behind operating an Airbus A380 in today's aviation market. The numbers reveal why so many airlines have abandoned this giant of the skies, and why Global Airlines' bet is even riskier than it appears. Fuel costs, the elephant in the room. At current average fuel prices, the A380 burns through £18,837 worth of jet fuel every hour. Compare that to the Airbus A350 at just £11,056 per hour. On paper, the A380's superior capacity, 503 seats versus 350, should balance this out. But reality tells a different story. The load factor problem. Airlines rarely fill every seat. Emirates, the most successful A380 operator, averages just 78.9% occupancy. This means each A380 flight typically carries 397 passengers rather than 503. Suddenly, that efficient cost per passenger jumps from £37.44 to £47.44 per hour, nearly £3 more expensive than the A350. The hidden costs that break the bank. Fuel is just the beginning. The A380's four engines cost dramatically more to maintain than the twin-engine A350. Airport fees are higher due to its weight and size. Its massive capacity creates a constant need for high-demand routes, something even major airlines struggle with. Global Airlines' high-stakes gamble. James Asquith's strategy relies on three risky assumptions: that used A380s can be acquired cheaply enough to offset costs, that premium cabins and gimmicks like Gamers Class will command higher fares, and that he can consistently fill these planes on niche routes. The verdict: while the math shows the A380 can technically break even, it requires perfect execution in an industry known for razor-thin margins. For every Emirates making it work, there are a dozen airlines that failed spectacularly with the A380. Global Airlines isn't just fighting economics, it's fighting history. The coming years will show whether this is visionary thinking or aviation's most expensive midlife crisis. One thing's certain, all eyes will be watching to see if this gamble pays off or becomes a cautionary tale for future aviation startups. So why on earth would James Asquith, a guy who built his career on smart, budget-friendly travel, gamble everything on the aviation industry's most infamous white elephant? The answer lies in one simple word: opportunity. While legacy airlines were dumping their A380s like hot potatoes, James saw a fire sale. We're talking about picking up these four-engine behemoths for pennies on the dollar, a shrewd business move if there ever was one. His plan? Take these second-hand giants and transform them into something the skies haven't seen in decades, true luxury flying. But this isn't just about slapping on some fancy seats and calling it a day. Global Airlines is dreaming big, like gamers class big. Yes, you heard that right. Imagine a cabin designed for streamers and esports athletes, complete with high-end gaming setups at 40,000 feet. Is it a gimmick? Maybe. But it's also the kind of outside-the-box thinking that could make this airline impossible to ignore. And the routes? Oh, they are playing the long game. While most airlines are obsessed with squeezing every last penny out of high-traffic hubs, Global is eyeing niche, high-demand routes where the A380's sheer size could actually be an advantage. So here's the real question: in an era where airlines are racing to make flying as bland and efficient as possible, is there still room for a little madness? For a throwback to when air travel was about more than just getting from A to B. Global Airlines is betting billions that the answer is yes. And if they are right, they might just pull off the greatest comeback story in aviation history. January 30, 2024, marked a watershed moment for Global Airlines. Against all odds, and after 3 years of skepticism, James Asquith's startup finally acquired its first Airbus A380s, 2 former China Southern jets pulled from storage. The most visible of these, 9H, Global, became an instant aviation celebrity when it embarked on a transatlantic ferry flight to Prestwick, Scotland on May 1, 2024. But this wasn't a triumphant debut, it was the start of a grueling refurbishment marathon. After sitting idle since 2020, these A380s required extensive work, pushing the airline's launch from summer 2024 to 2025. The Instagram controversy. Yet even as mechanics scrambled to get the jets airworthy, Global faced scrutiny off the tarmac. Aviation enthusiasts were stunned to discover the airline had purchased its Instagram presence from a Turkish plane spotting page, a move unheard of for legacy carriers. Why would an airline with genuine A380s need to buy social media clout? For skeptics, this raised uncomfortable questions about Global's priorities. Was this a clever workaround for instant credibility, or a sign of deeper issues? The bigger picture. Between delayed timelines and unorthodox marketing, Global Airlines walks a tightrope. Every startup faces growing pains, but in the cutthroat aviation industry, there's little margin for error. As 9H, Global undergoes its transformation in Dresden, one thing is clear: the real test begins when passengers finally board. When Global Airlines announced its first commercial route from Glasgow to New York, the aviation industry took notice. The initial ticket prices raised eyebrows across the board, with economy seats priced at £778, a staggering 88% premium over comparable flights from Edinburgh. Business class tickets commanded £3,700, while first class soared to £7,127. At full capacity, these prices could have generated approximately £649,000 in revenue per round trip. However, reality quickly set in as Global was forced to slash prices dramatically just weeks before takeoff, reducing economy fares to £380 and business class to £1,999, a clear sign of weak demand. The financial reality unfolds. The May 15 inaugural flight revealed troubling numbers. Only 90 passengers boarded the 506-seat aircraft, representing a shockingly low 17.78% load factor, far below industry standards. Estimated revenue plummeted to around £115,400, which failed to cover even the £119,238 fuel cost for the round trip. This dire financial picture doesn't account for crew salaries, aircraft maintenance, airport fees, catering costs, or aircraft parking and storage, expenses that likely pushed losses well into six figures for this single flight. The luxury promise falls short. Perhaps more damaging than the financials was the complete disconnect between Global's marketing and the actual passenger experience. Passengers boarded what was essentially the same China Southern A380 the airline had acquired, with only superficial changes like new stickers and paint. None of the promised cabin refurbishments were visible, leaving travelers with a product that fell far short of the golden age of travel experience that had been advertised. Service failures compounded the disappointment. Business class passengers reportedly waited over 5 hours for their initial meal service, an unacceptable standard for any premium airline, let alone one charging nearly £4,000 per ticket. The complete lack of in-flight entertainment stood in stark contrast to even budget carriers, making the premium pricing particularly hard to justify. A launch rush to market? Several indicators suggest global airlines pushed forward before truly being ready. The unfinished product, evidenced by the lack of cabin upgrades, points to either poor planning or financial constraints. The dramatic price cuts shortly before launch reveal a concerning miscalculation of demand. Most tellingly, the operational failures, from delayed meals to missing amenities, suggest a team unprepared for the realities of running a commercial flight service. The aftermath and future prospects. In the wake of this disastrous launch, global airlines faces an uphill battle to regain credibility. The negative passenger reviews and poor financial performance create a vicious cycle that could scare away both future customers and potential investors. While startup airlines often face early challenges, global's combination of overpromising and underdelivering. As an aviation enthusiast and A380 devotee, I've followed global airlines' journey with both excitement and growing apprehension. The dream of reviving the golden age of air travel through the majestic A380 is undeniably romantic, but the harsh realities of modern aviation economics cast serious doubt on its viability. The A380's mounting challenges. The discontinuation of A380 production creates an existential threat for global's business model. As the fleet ages, maintenance costs will inevitably rise while parts become scarcer. This comes at a time when airlines are rapidly adopting next-generation aircraft like the A350 and 787 Dreamliner, which offer 20 to 30% better fuel efficiency. Global finds itself locked into operating what is essentially becoming the Hummer of the skies, a glorious but increasingly impractical relic of a bygone era. Competitive landscape shifts. Modern travelers have fundamentally changed their booking behavior. The market has bifurcated into two dominant models: alliance-based frequent flyers who prioritize miles and status, and price-sensitive travelers who simply want the cheapest option. Global fits neither category. Without alliance partnerships, they can't offer the route networks or loyalty benefits that attract business travelers. And with their higher operating costs, they can't compete on price with budget carriers. The experience factor. Global's entire premise hinges on delivering a superior passenger experience that justifies premium pricing. But their rushed inaugural flight demonstrated how difficult this is to execute. True differentiation requires consistent operational excellence, genuine product innovation, flawless service delivery. So far, Global has shown weakness in all three areas. The refurbished China Southern cabins with minimal changes and reported service failures suggest they are not delivering on their core promise. Possible paths forward. Global essentially has three options. Niche luxury play, successfully pivot to become the Four Seasons of the skies, but this requires massive investment and flawless execution. Hybrid model, find underserved routes where the A380's capacity makes sense, though these are increasingly rare. Pivot to charter, shift focus to VIP and sports team charters where the A380's space is valued. The verdict. While the heart wants Global to succeed, the head suggests otherwise. The A380's economics were challenging even for major airlines during peak production. For a startup without economies of scale, trying to make it work in today's market seems borderline quixotic. Unless Global can rapidly demonstrate truly transformative passenger experiences and find an unserved market niche, they risk becoming a cautionary tale about the dangers of nostalgia overriding business fundamentals. The coming year will be crucial in determining whether this ambitious venture can adapt to survive or will remain a beautiful but ultimately impractical aviation dream.